intelligence headquarters outside of Washington in Holiday Inn. And just before he was murdered, he called his wife back in El Paso and said, "The Army is going to kill me. They're going to kill me." Well, he was murdered, and the Army did kill him.
No, this is a fictional account. Or this
No,
really happened?
it actually happened.
Oh, I was thinking the book, The Widows, is not fiction.
Oh no, it's all. The Golitsyn, the spy Golitsyn was in there. There were a couple of others. Paisley, who was murdered almost like this other man. Paisley was murdered like William Cole. Paisley was also hanging around as homosexual. He went to the Rush River Lodge. That is the one. So did Bob Woodward. Bob Woodward, you know. Yeah. Henry Kissinger was a well-known, totally homosexual, not even both ways.
His wife is married to
Oh, it's just a convenience. Yeah, I mean, he might, maybe he's discovered, wait a minute, it's like age, I don't know. But, no, I heard through a very well-grounded German that Henry's best friend, his father, told Henry to stay away from him, and that's why Henry left. The family were embarrassed, and Henry went to Britain when he did this, and they changed his name from Heinz to Henry. And I interviewed a man named Bob, who's an Army enlisted person who told me about Henry in Cambodia. So up through Cambodia, he was actually raping young men. And of course, that experience destroyed the lives of these 5 young men, according to the source. I mean, he said he was crying. This man was a perfectly wonderful, interesting, young married man who worked for a newspaper on Eastern Shore and had 3 young children. Went to Vietnam. An enlisted man was put in Cambodia, which he said it was a lie living there. And then he ran into Henry Kissinger, or Henry Kissinger ran into him and did certain things to him. Invited him into his tent with some other men. It was horrible, but it was, he said it's wartime and so forth. But he said, I could have taken it mentally if it had been a bunk name or something. But he said, when it's someone like Henry Kissinger who does it to you, you're ruined. He said, I could never, he said he came back home. Oh, this is interesting. And I really believe that Bob's right. He said, Kissinger said, ever tell anybody, ever mention his soul. Ever tell anybody. Well, when Bob got back, he went to a special hospital, and they were going to keep him locked up forever. Bob. A lot of the other boys just, my feeling is that he was flagged the way I was flagged when General Gray and, Wilhelm had me flagged because I broke up the go-go dancing in the officers' club. I was labeled a troublemaker because I thought it was wrong for married men to be going out with topless go-go dancers in the officers' club dining room, and I took pictures of it, and my husband, got really mad.
And these pictures today are still with her.
Oh no, my husband, what happened? I had the pictures. I risked my life because he tried to grab the camera from me. I hid it in the women's bathroom, and he tried to get it from me. It was a terrible fight. That night, he wanted the pictures, and I prevailed. I developed the pictures, wrote a very nice southern letter, wrote the letter to the club manager saying I didn't think it was proper. Had 3 sets, actually 4 sets of the 3 photographs I took. And I sent a copy of the letter and the photographs to the base commander's wife, to the but this was before tailhook, and yet instead of being congratulated for helping family values, for standing up for the wives, for showing the Marine Corps the proper place to have nudity and debauchery is not in the dining room of Camp Lejeune. And my husband said, well, this is nothing compared to Okinawa. You just have to get used to it, he told me. Now, I was a colonel's wife. These were young majors, and they were seeing me being talked down to. What do you think it did to them? It demoralized them. The Marine Corps was demoralized. The wives were demoralized, and I did what was right, what Jesus Christ would have done. How can they call themselves Christians and condone? How can Al Gray and Wilhelm and Cook and my husband condone this kind of behavior and flag me as a weirdo? So there's something, and that's where I'm standing. I'm standing on what I know Jesus Christ would have done. And they want to, continue to hound me because I'm telling the truth. Well, that's just the way it is. I'm not going to lie and develop a different kind of personality just to please them. But anyway, that happened.
So then the book, The Widows, continues with.
Yes, and I contacted this woman. There was a detective who had to be hired. She knew he'd been murdered. The Army covered everything up. She had an independent investigator. And the interesting thing which happened was that she worked in a toy shop. This isn't in the book. She told me this over the phone.
This is Mrs.
Yeah, it's like Klein.
Anyway, so.
Yeah. Anyway, he's I'll think of it in a minute, hopefully. But she worked in a toy shop, and they were scoping her out. And this was just after no, it was before he was murdered. It was before he was murdered, because she said she told her husband about this. George Bush and his wife came into her shop and were looking at her. Now, I don't know what that means, but they don't live in El Paso. Why? And he was doing all of the Russian, Mexican, Trotsky kind of work for
George Bush.
No, this guy.
This guy.
Yeah.
Now this is while
Weapons
George was
sales.
CIA director.
Right. I believe he was CIA director then. But the interesting thing to me was, why would he scope the wife? Why would he bring Barbara in? Did Barbara know? Was he just using Barbara as a, but she was being observed. And it was shortly before he was murdered. And I know that Parker Host, my husband's friend, has dealings with George Bush. So, I don't know. So there's a lot to do with oil and Aramco and, Texas and all of that. I know it's very complex, but where I draw the line is murder and assassination and corruption and lies and deception and cruelty to innocent women and children and families, just because they're not elite. Just because, Mrs. Bush is in the colonial days. So is my mother. Colonial days. It's colonial days is a very elite group of women, they think they are, who are descendants of George Washington's aides. And they own George Washington's ancestral home. Solgrave Manor in Great Britain. They run, they have Wilton in Richmond, which is an old house where Lafayette visited. I know there's a connection with Lafayette and the Masons. And I know there's a big Mason contingent in the warfare selling group, because the head admiral in Norway, Eidem, not Eidem, because he's in charge of the prisons which have the drug lord. He's running the drug lord out of his prison. He's a friend of George's, Newt Eidem. They were talking about this, as though I would know about it, you know. And he has a house or a cottage right outside of Kolsas, Norway, which is where they have one of their underground bunkers. They have one in Narvik, and they do a lot of the cold weather training people does up there. But I know they're doing weapon shipments out of Norway.
Oh, it's a ramp for me.
I'm tired. Yeah. Well, this is not an order, but this is interesting because they're talking about having mercenary guys, They're hiring mercenaries. Countries are to do, but it's not just countries that are hiring mercenaries. It's others. This is the Princeton yearbook. And they called it the Commissar. And he was the one who did all of the training for the, they had a Halo school, George told me, in the Philippines, where they trained the Delta Force successes in the Philippines. They also had a school like that. The Australians had one in Indonesia, on an island where they're having big kind of East Timor. Yeah, it's in the mountains, and it was started. Yeah, and the Portuguese are involved in this in some way.
Based on your newest lesson, you learn about the one. Are you? All right, great. We're rolling. We're recording. We are doing it right now. And good deal. Hey, Albert. Albert. Camera here. Just tighten the shot just ever so slightly. Just, you don't have to get all the way. You can reach for that side easier. See what I'm saying right here? Just tighten it just a wee little bit.